What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Tonight I wanted to talk about Bally's 1953 Dude Ranch. Dude Ranch is a particularly well-loved title in Bally's pantheon of games, and that's because it combines many features of the previous games and puts them all together in this one monstrous, amazing game. Dude Ranch has two main cards, 5x5 grids, and if you get 3, 4, or 5 in a row on either of those cards, it will award you a certain number of replays. Those replays are scored as indicated on the back glass through what they call advancing odds. So when you first put in your coin, it's going to light the first card, and it's going to light up the default odds, which in this case are 4 for 3 in a row, 16 for 4 in a row, and 96 for 5 in a row. But they advance all the way up to 36 for 3 in a row, 72 for 4 in a row, and 300 for 4 in a row. Now, that's pretty amazing. Now, I mentioned this game has two main cards, but it's also got a super card. A super card is a separate 3x3 grid of numbers, and if you get 3 in a row on it, it scores as if you had earned 4 in a row. Now, this game also has a corners feature, so if you get the corners on either of the two main cards, it'll give you 200 replays. But if you get the corners on the super card when you have it lit, it'll score 300. Now, according to Phil Hooper on bingo.cdyn.com, and his information for this game, he says that you can only earn one corners award per game. So if you were to earn corners on one of the main cards, you'd get 200 replays. But if you managed to get corners on the super card, you would not earn an additional 300 replays. You wouldn't even earn an additional 200 replays. You would get nothing for that, because it only gives you one award per game for corners. Now, otherwise, the super card and the main cards score separately. So the super card is a fantastic deal on this game, because you have nothing to lose by playing for either the main card or the super card, or both. On all of the previous games that had super cards, if you got 3 in a row on that scored as 4, it's not like you got another 4 in a row if you happen to get that on the main card. You were already paid. You're stuck. But in this case, you get both. Who doesn't want more, right? Now, this game also has extra balls, so you get up to 8 chances to get your 5 in a row. This game also has Select a Spot. Now, if you listen to my Beach Club episode, I talked about the 7 different positions that this knob has. And in this case, that 7 positions is back, but the numbers are slightly different. You have 19, 20, 21, and 22. Those are your first 4, and of course those were the same on the previous 2 games with Select a Spot. Then you have 15, 16, and 10. 15 is the center number on the second card, 16 is the center number on the first card, and 10 is the center number on your super card. So those are really the numbers that you would really love to have spotted. Now, you might say, that sounds great, but I really need one more feature just to make My life complete. Well, you're in luck. This game has a super line. Now, super lines are typically only on the 6-card games, and if you'll recall, a super line, if you have 3 in a row on it, it'll give you a 4 in a row win. If you have 4 in a row, it gives you a 5 in a row win, so they are good things to shoot for. Now, in this case, the super line is either the top line on the first card or the top line on the second card. To make your life as a player a little more difficult, Bally made it so you had to choose if you wanted the first super line, the second super line, or the super card through use of a green button on the front of the cabinet. You had to push this button and make your selection before shooting your third ball. So you either had to start thinking towards building your 3 in a row on the super card, or thinking towards getting your super line on the first or second card. Now, no matter what you pick, the only one that will actually score out of those extra features is the one that's lit. So you need to make sure that you pick the appropriate one in order to get your replays. Now, your select a spot you have to choose before shooting your fourth ball. There's no extended time tree, so you need to choose wisely. Your rollovers, either yellow or red, and only one will light at a time, will spot numbers. Now you got the gist of this game here. There's a whole lot going on. There's a lot to pay attention to. It's very easy, probably, to shoot through your first critical choice, which is choosing either the super lines or the super card using the green button before you shoot your third ball. So pay attention if you're playing this game, because there is lots of decision making to be had. Now let's talk about the artwork. Dude Ranch, as you might imagine, takes place on a dude ranch. And there are many cowgirls who are hanging out at this dude ranch, and one of which is ringing the dinner bell. And there are a couple of cowboys hanging around the cowgirls. Big surprise. And lovely artwork in the foreground for the odds. You've got a big cactus in the foreground. It's got 3 of the sets of the advancing odds. And many other objects in the way. Again, that's one of my favorite things, is when what's essentially background flavoring becomes part of the advancing odds. So you've got a well, and you've got the column that supports the dinner bell, along with a road sign, and then the aforementioned cactus. All of that is really cool. All the people are in the foreground. You've got essentially the beginnings of a sunset in the far background, and then the sky in a beautiful gradient from fiery orange down at the bottom up to sky blue at the top, and the reflection of the orange on the bottom of the clouds. Very cool. And the artwork around the super cards, the super lines, and the select a spot is pretty exemplary as well. Now, the cabinet has a pretty interesting stencil. It's a mixture of yellow and green stripes. An inset are little vignettes. One has several buttes going off into the background. and that's on the front of the cab. On the sides, you've got a homestead, a ranch, along with a split rail fence. And then the playfield. I didn't talk about the playfield. You got multiple cowgirls hanging out. And then one cowboy on the other side of the fence talking to the cowgirls. In the background, you got the ranch, mountains, the sky. And this scene also takes place at the same time of day with sunset starting to creep in. The sky, that fiery orange, leading up to the sky blue. Beautiful coloration on this playfield. And the numbers that are spotted by the rollovers, I didn't talk about that, but the numbers 8 and 23 are spotted when you hit the lit rollover, which is pretty helpful. So this also looks like a fantastic game, and that's basically because it combines so much of the previous games and what makes them great, and adds that extra decision point of how do you want your extra scoring to function. I think that is a great idea. The more that the player is involved in the choice of how they wish to proceed, makes the game even more of an excellent player, in my opinion. So this looks like a really fun game. Yet another game that I've never played, but I hear great things about this one, as I've heard about many of the ones that I've covered previously. Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line at 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast, or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.